So, folks, another day, another absolute clusterfluff from the Trump administration. Just every single day that goes by, somehow news of their incompetence only grows. Not a single day has gone by during Trump's second go around that something colossally stupid hasn't happened. And here's one of the latest ones, courtesy of the New York Times here. Doge put critical social security data at risk.
Anakin, I don't trust your buddy, Guy Patine.
Jupiter Quake, thank you for the $5 super chat. But yeah, so you guys remember how Doge was briefly given access to social security? You guys all remember that, right? Well, the Doge boys have apparently been caught during that window when they had access to the social security repository of all of our data, hundreds of millions of people's data. We're talking like, at the very least, 2/3 of the country. They uploaded the entire database to an unsecured cloud platform. So that's cool. To a vulnerable cloud server, according to the agency's chief data officer. Members of the Department of Government Efficiency uploaded a copy of a crucial social security database in June to a vulnerable cloud server, putting personal information of hundreds of millions of Americans at risk of being leaked or hacked, according to a whistleblower complaint filed by the Social Security Administration's chief data office. The database contains records of all social security numbers issued by the federal government. It includes individuals' full names, addresses, and birth dates, among other details that could be used to steal their identities, making one of the nation's most sensitive repositories of personal information. So, yeah. Like, when we talk about how there's a need for when all of this is done and dusted, when this second Trump administration is finally done, we talk about the need for, like, people from the top to the bottom to, like, face the very real possibility of prison time. This is one of those things where, like, yeah, everyone working at the Department of Government Efficiency at this Doge unit should probably go to jail. They have been personally responsible for leaking the most sensitive information that any one of us in this country possesses. Like, this is beyond the pale. This is all coming out courtesy of Charles Borges, who, again, chief data officer of the Social Security Administration. Let's see. In his complaint, Mr. Borges said Doge members copied the data to an internal agency server that only Doge could access, foregoing the type of independent security monitoring normally required under agency policy for such sensitive data and creating enormous vulnerabilities. Now, I do want to point out here that the New York Times, again, in its effort to launder the Trump administration's incompetence and the damage that the Trump administration has done, adds, Mr. Borges did not indicate that the database had been breached or used inappropriately, but, like, I'm sorry, they used it inappropriately. They took our data and used it inappropriately by making it vulnerable, okay? Number one. Number two, there's a huge, enormous qualifier that the New York Times leaves unsaid here, which is, to their knowledge. You know, they don't say this, but, like, okay, you uploaded it to a vulnerable cloud platform. The chief data officer of the Social Security Administration is saying it's enormously vulnerable and it has none of the security checks that would, say, prevent someone from accessing that database who wasn't supposed to. So how would one know if it was inappropriately used after it's already been inappropriately used in this way? Yeah, like, this is like, okay, you bypassed all the things that would track access to this information, right? So, like, I don't know, seems kind of weird. Waiting for the nuclear codes to be leaked. Honestly. But his disclosure stated that as of late June, no verified audit or oversight mechanisms existed to monitor what Doge was using the data for, or whether it was being shared outside the agency, because, again, they had no way of knowing that. Should bad actors gain access to this cloud environment, Americans may be susceptible to widespread identity theft, may lose vital health care and food benefits, and the government may be responsible for reissuing every American a new social security number at great cost. He alleged that Doge did not involve him in discussions about the project despite his role as chief data officer, leaving him to piece together evidence of what had happened after the fact. So, again, they came in, stole all of our data, made a copy of it, put it on a vulnerable server, and then didn't tell any of the details of that to the guy who's in charge of keeping all of that information secure. And he had to do an investigation of his own to figure out what had happened. Why did they need that data in the first place? We don't know. What did they do with it after they took it? We don't know. This is why. Part of the reason why we must demand there to be like tribunals, there to be like legal consequences for these people is because we need to figure out what the fuck they did. Because no one on the inside of these agencies seems to have any idea. Included in his account, the copy of which was reviewed by the New York Times, more than 24 pages of internal emails, memos, and other records to document his claims. Mr. Borges' complaint said that Doge's actions potentially violated multiple federal statutes designed to protect government data. And, like, there needs to be consequences for that beyond just, whoopsie, which seems to have been the consequences so far. Just like a whoopsie daisy. It's crazy. They need our data to feed their generative AI overlords. The second someone figures out how to get like a social security number out of one of these bots, everyone that works for that company should go to jail. Just straight up. Like it's just we're in crazy times here, chat. And this is all happening. Like this account is coming out right as Donald Trump is trying to like crow about his accomplishments with his tariffs and like, oh, look at all the money we made as a country from the tariffs. You know, don't remember that tariffs are a unilateral tax imposed by Donald Trump. All of these tariffs unilaterally imposed by Donald Trump. Don't think of it as a tax. Think of it as a fun bonus we got from other people, not you, but other people. And I just have to say, maybe one of the worst things that could happen for our current economic situation, because right now, economically, the United States is kind of fucked, but we're kind of like we're dead, but we don't know it yet, kind of thing. Like I don't even know how to put this into the right words. The tariffs are killing us. Okay, the tariffs are laws that are being, not laws, but they're taxes being imposed on us by the president. And we're talking not an insubstantial tax. We're talking like 20, 30, in some cases 50% taxes on entire countries, not on like individual, markets so that we can bring manufacturing back, just on blanket countries. Okay? And that is incredibly destabilizing. And despite that, the U.S. economy has been managing to shamble along, not yet fully collapsing under the weight of this, right? But if it starts to be revealed that like that data, that Social Security data got out there and someone has access to it, a bad actor has access to it, that is one of those things that would be catastrophic. It would like immediately, like, it would be one of those like economic nukes. It's one of those things that would immediately destabilize the entire financial system. Because, again, all of these systems, all of our financial systems, they're tied up with our social security numbers. Okay? That amount of chaos would ripple through the entire economy very quickly. And over the past week, countries have been shutting off shipping to the United States, sending post to the United States, sending packages to the United States, because the United States has made sending things here prohibitively expensive. Some countries are paying $100 per package, regardless of what's in it. Some countries are paying up to $200 per package. Yeah, we're talking like Japan, like half the countries in Europe, Australia, and it's going to get worse. We can still ship via DHL. A $15 shipment is now $188. Yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. Okay? Yeah, the minimum is going to be $80 starting this Friday. So the effects of this are going to hit pretty quick. And I gotta say, there is one additional factor here that has the potential to destabilize the whole kit and caboodle, whether or not the Social Security data gets leaked. And that is what's happening with Lisa Cook. Now, for those of you, if you're like, who the hell is Lisa Cook? She's one of the governors of the Federal Reserve. So she's one of the people, along with Jerome Powell, who runs the Fed. They're the people who are charged with keeping people employed and keeping inflation down, right? Now, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency. It is not supposed to have the president or anyone else in government, putting people in, taking people out, etc. What is supposed to happen is that the governors at the Fed, they have a set term limit and then they get replaced. Donald Trump has been so upset with Jerome Powell that he's been threatening to replace Jerome Powell for months now. And, well, it kind of turned out that when he got real close to doing that, companies freaked the fuck out, okay? Because the Federal Reserve is kind of what keeps our entire financial system nailed down and prevents it from going off into la la land. If the central bank ceases to be independent, and I'm not really exaggerating here, the entire global financial system is going to suffer some kind of collapse. It is literally the thing that global markets rely on because we've made the American dollar the central currency of the entire planet. And so Donald Trump backed away from replacing Jerome Powell, and they clearly hate each other. However, he's trying to replace Lisa Cook on the governing board of the Federal Reserve. Yesterday, he tried to fire her. He issued a statement saying that he was firing her, and everyone kind of waited with bated breath to see how this was going to unfold today. And well, now we know. What we have is not Lisa Cook going quietly, but instead Lisa Cook lawyering up along with her allies at the Fed, and they're going to fight this in court. And that is maybe the best case scenario for how this could play out so far. It is going to continue this stability, such as it is, for a while. But this is maybe one of those things where the president of the United States is trying to seize the central bank of the US. It is a major authoritarian play. And it's one that isn't, in the case of, for example, Washington, D.C., the National Guard being deployed there is bad. It is an authoritarian power play. It is an attempt to scare and an attempt to control the population. This is something that has the potential to bring in the entire planet. Yeah, it's bad. Trump plainly has become newly emboldened in recent days, but another thing that makes this moment so ominous is that his accomplices also appear to be newly emboldened. They are acting freshly unconstrained, brashly, arrogantly certain they will never face accountability no matter what they do to carry out Trump's corrupt bidding. Case in point, Trump's appalling new effort to fire Lisa Cook from the Federal Reserve's Board of Governors. On Monday night, his anger at Cook peaked as he announced that he is removing Cook, who has infuriated him for months by helping to keep interest rates higher than he wants, especially declaring Fed independence a dead letter. Yet this maneuver may yet backfire on Trump, in part because the accomplices helping carry it out have grown almost absurdly brazen in doing so. The move appears to be illegal, though Trump may still get away with it. The law allows a president to remove a Fed board member for cause, which has generally meant something like a real reason grounded in actual misconduct, not a fake reason that the president pulled out of his rear end. What is the fake reason that they are trying to manufacture for removing Lisa Cook? And I saw somebody ask if Lisa Cook was black, and why, yes, she is a black woman. The fake reason that they are trying to concoct right now is that Lisa Cook has like some kind of mortgage fraud against her. One thing to understand about this is that, well, there's a guy who works for Donald Trump called William Polt. And William heads the Federal Housing Finance Agency. And basically what William has been doing for the last month or so is trying to find any kind of screw up on any kind of mortgage information that may have been filed. It is the same thing that they are using, I believe, against someone in Congress. It might be Adam Schiff. But there are a number of people in Congress being investigated over this, and it's all the brainchild of this William Polt character. And they're trying to say that screwing up paperwork is mortgage fraud. And I just have to say, digging into private information, yes. Now, what is interesting about this is because Lisa Cook is digging in her heels and fighting this case, that means there's going to be discovery. And that discovery process means that we are going to see exactly how William Polt has been going about getting information on people's mortgages. And that means we are going to know whether or not this William Polt is breaking the law brazenly in an attempt to dig up dirt on Donald Trump's enemies. Yeah, it's Adam Schiff. William Polt has pulled this with Adam Schiff, New York Attorney General Letitia James as well. And all three have been referred to the Department of Justice for prosecution based on William Polt. The real question this raises is, why is Polt scrutinizing mortgages that just happen to belong to many high-profile opponents of Trump, and how did he come to select these targets? Experts recently told me that this use of the FHFA mortgage fraud process appears highly suspect at best. When a Washington Post reporter asked FHFA to identify the procedural basis for Polt to single out these targets, she received no answer. Polt is apparently manipulating agency processes for the express purpose of creating a pretext for referring matters involving Trump's designated enemies to the Department of Justice. As Georgetown law professor Adam Levitin points out, it's probable that the only way the mortgages of three leading Trump foes could all face scrutiny is if Polt personally ordered it. That's an abuse of office, Levitin writes, and a far greater offense than anything Cook, Schiff, or James might have done. So, again, this is going to be one of those cases where, we'll see how this goes, but given that Lisa Cook did not get cowed into stepping down and is instead bringing the legal fight to Polt, we're going to know to what degree William Polt is breaking the law in order to make this happen. And when that comes out, he's going to be in a shit ton of trouble. I think that's the technical term for it. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, Cook just announced she's suing to challenge her firing, and people with experience in mortgage law and governance tell me that Cook's lawyer, well-known D.C. attorney Ab Lowell, has a major opening in the coming litigation. He can use the discovery process to shed light on why Polt targeted these mortgages and on why White House involvement and on any White House involvement in that. I'd be highly confident that Abbe, I'm going to say Abby, is going to explore every avenue of discovery to determine what role, if any, the White House played in instigating this investigation. Because, again, this is one of those cases where, did the President of the United States personally order his enemies to be prosecuted? That'd be interesting. Is it against the law? Yes. It is incredibly against the law to do that. Folks might say, but Donald Trump has immunity. Again, he has immunity for things that aren't explicitly illegal. But this is one of those things where it is explicitly illegal for you to order, your goons to concoct charges against your political enemies. That is actually explicitly illegal. This could be another one of those cases where, the cover-up is worse than the crime. It could be also just that the crime is explicit and blatant, because there is a limit to the power that this administration wields, and at some point the levee has to break. Won't they just try to get to the Supreme Court and get them to call it an official act? I mean, they can try, and maybe the Supreme Court will be complicit with that, but I don't think that's going to be a sure thing the deeper we get into this administration. Do you think he's trying to get the crime achievement before he dies? No, apparently he's trying to get the go to heaven achievement before he dies, because he's been talking a lot about dying and going to heaven. And like I got real bad news for him. Isn't anything official if he does it officially? Not if he doesn't have the power to do it, or explicitly is prohibited from doing it by like the Constitution. I just it's another one of those things where even if this does go up to the Supreme Court, even if, etc., it gives him less time. We take the air out of his sails. It gives him less time to consolidate the power that he's trying to get. Wrapping up the resources of this administration is good. He has a lot of time. It's not good. All I'm saying is the longer it takes for him to consolidate power, the better it is for everybody else. And we know, based on how he has acted so far, he's not invulnerable. He is not immune to pressures from the economy. He's not immune to pressures from people, the people in general, organizing against him. He is not immune from any of these things, as much as he would like you to believe that he is. And so any amount of air we can take from his sails, any amount of resistance that can be introduced into his attempts to consolidate power, that is good.
The Grim Reaper is grinning wider than usual, looking back at Trump. Go towards the light.
Indeed. I do hope he dies. Of old age, obviously. I hope he lives his full, long life and then passes away. So all I gotta say is that I think the longer we can draw out this attempt to consolidate power, the better. So with that being said, if he does, what I wanted to point out here is that if he does succeed in replacing Lisa Cook, that economic nuclear bomb we talked about earlier, even if the social security numbers don't get leaked, right? Even if that information doesn't somehow start getting misused, messing around with the Board of Governors for the Federal Reserve is another one of those things that is going to cause global markets to freak the fuck out. It is going to be one of those things where, like, it's not going to be ignorable. It's not going to be like, oh, we'll all just live with this. No, every company on the face of the earth that is large enough to operate internationally is going to freak the fuck out. Every other national bank in the world, every other currency in the world is going to go reeling because of that. And it is going to be bad, Like, it is going to make tariffs look tame. It is going to be like an asteroid falling from, like, the deep space and collapsing in on our society. So what I'm trying to put forward here is that this is a good fight to fight, because if we lose it, it makes it worse for everyone. And the longer it takes, the more clear it is going to become to the Trump administration that messing with this is poison for them. It is one of the things where, like, the longer we take, the more attrition mentally it takes on the will of this administration to actually go through with this. We'll really see how this goes. I want to read the last part of this New Republic article because I think it's relevant. We're seeing a deepening sense of impunity among many of Trump's willing accomplices. Pultz posting of these internal findings about senior officials on social media itself suggests that he feels thoroughly unconstrained. Stephen Miller recently responded to protests of U.S. troops in Washington, D.C. by arrogantly threatening to send in more military and/or law enforcement resources, in direct defiance of the city's residents. The maltreatment of wrongfully deported Kilmar Abrego Garcia relied on vile and corrupt public conduct by many senior DOJ and Department of Homeland Security officials, which is only getting more brazen. Scholars of authoritarianism tell us that the existence of cadres of willing accomplices who are not just eager to bend or break laws to carry out the leader's designs, but also come to see themselves as utterly unconstrained by any prospect of accountability is itself a telltale sign of dissent. The loyalists around Trump are much more open and much bolder in their authoritarianism than they were 6 months ago, because they've learned fight by fight that they can get away with it, Harvard professor Stephen Levitsky told me. We're in a very dangerous moment. Democrats should be making it absolutely clear right now that anyone who carries out corrupt or illegal orders for Trump cannot count on bureaucratic obscurity to shield them from political or legal accountability later. Yes, Trump might preemptively pardon top officials who are legally vulnerable, but Democrats should pointedly pose the question, do you really think it's wise to count on Donald Trump to secure you from jeopardy later? And I mean, that is a point. I think that is a decent point. And I also think that, I'm going to be completely and utterly candid with you guys, if Donald Trump pardons these people, I think we have seen that the Trump administration doesn't give a single shit about the Constitution, doesn't give a single shit about limitations on presidential power. And similarly, in order to fix this mess, I think any incoming Democrats need to also give zero shits about those constraints in order to set things right. And I think that one of those things that we should give zero shits about is like, oh, well, Trump said we couldn't prosecute these people. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. Prosecute them anyway. I think that when we have gone as wrong as we have currently gone, there needs to be an invalidation of the decisions made under this administration. Whatever pardons might come down from Donald Trump, these people need to be held accountable for the very real damage, the very real lives they have taken from our country. So, with that being said, very good piece by Greg Sargent over on the New Republic. I'm going to link it in chat because I do think it's pretty important talk about where we're at right now with the Trump administration. With that being said, we are under extreme economic threat right now. Basically, all of the indicators are that we are headed into a recession. If the Federal Reserve time bomb goes off that Donald Trump is attempting to set as we speak, if the data that Doge illegally took out of the Social Security Administration falls into the wrong hands, similarly, another ticking time bomb, this is something that could utterly decimate our economic prospects in this country. That being said, keep all of that in mind as we go forward. Pay close attention to what happens with the Federal Reserve, folks. It is where all the action is right now.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.